What is velocity? The term velocity points out an object's speed and direction of motion. Both in combined form is called as velocity. We shall look at the mathematical representation of velocity in the section below. Velocity can also be defined as the rate at which the displacement of an object in motion changes with time. Mathematically, velocity can be given as dx/dt, where x is displacement and t is the time period. When is the velocity said to be constant? The velocity can be said to be constant when the value of acceleration is said to be zero, not uniform or constant. Let us study more about the constant velocity motion. We all have an idea of how packaging industries work. They have a conveyor system where their products are placed. Their conveyor moves at a constant velocity so that the workers and other automated machines can perform their respective duties on the product. We will see more such examples in this article. How to find constant velocity with friction. If an object is given a push, it will move forward up to some distance and then stop due to the action of frictional force. To keep the object moving, we need to keep applying the force that is equal to the magnitude of kinetic friction. This is a type of friction that acts between two moving surfaces. We shall study more about kinetic friction in below sections of this article. Types of friction. There are mainly two types of friction. They are static friction. The static friction is minimum amount of force needed to move the object from its initial position. Any force lesser than the static friction will not be able to move the object. Kinetic friction. Kinetic friction comes into play when two objects are rubbing against each other. If the force which drives the object is lifted, kinetic friction is to be held responsible if the object stops moving. Hence we can say that static friction is minimum force required to move an object and the kinetic friction is the minimum force needed to keep the object moving. Constant velocity example. We can identify countless number of objects that are following a constant velocity motion. Let us see some of the examples of constant velocity motion below. Revolution of Earth. The most common example of constant velocity can be that of Earth revolving around the Sun. It takes the same amount of time to complete one revolution. This is precisely said to be constant angular velocity motion. The term angular defines the type of motion performed by Earth. Terminal velocity. During a free fall, the object is accelerated at first due to the action of gravity. Later the acceleration becomes zero once the object attains terminal velocity. The drag forces are also constant, implying they 1 and t further slow down the object. This is an example of constant velocity motion. Conveyor belt system. As discussed above, conveyor belts will move at a constant velocity to transport the products from one place to another. Aeroplanes. While cruising, the aircraft tends to maintain its velocity. Any change in velocity is negligible. This can be considered as an example of constant velocity motion. Rotation of Earth. Again, an example of constant angular velocity motion. Earth will take 24 hours every day to complete one rotation around its axis. Pushing a box with the same force? When we push the box with same amount of force, the box keeps moving in less and until the force is lifted. The box will move with constant velocity but only till the moment the same force is being applied. Fan? When we keep the fan on at the same speed, the fan follows a constant angular velocity motion. What is friction? It is defined as opposing or the resisting force to an object which is moving. In ideal cases, we neglect friction to ease our calculations. Friction is absent when the surfaces are smooth, but in reality no surface is perfectly smooth. The surface always has some amount of roughness in them. When an object is rubbed over another object, the rough surfaces coincide with each other, creating resistance to the motion. This resistance is called as friction. Applications of friction. Though friction may seem undesirable to us, but it carries abundant number of uses for us. Without friction our life would have become a mess. Yes, you read it correct. Friction is something we need to perform our daily tasks with ease. Let us get a more clear idea of how friction helps us with our daily tasks. Applications of friction are: walking. Frictional force between ground and feet helps us to move forward. Without the action of friction, our feet would have slipped, which would make it hard for us to move forward. Cycling. The tires of cycle rub against the ground, due to which it gets a normal reaction in the forward direction. This normal reaction helps the cycle to move in forward direction. Driving a vehicle. In driving alone, we can see multiple applications of friction. Rotating a steering wheel needs friction, while driving there is friction between tires and the ground. Climbing. Let us consider a frictionless surface. If we were about to climb this surface, then our legs would have slipped due to smooth surface. Sliding while climbing is very fatal. Hence, to create friction, we wear shoes with a better grip that create more friction, which help us on climbing. Application of brakes. The brakes work on the principle of friction. Without friction, it would have been nearly impossible to stop the vehicle. It is with the help of friction only the brakes work and help the vehicle to stop when required. Please visit our website lambdageeks.com for more articles on technology, engineering, mathematics, and various other domains. Scientific calculator and many more other tools.